Hey everyone, I'm Tara Glenn, and a while back I wrote an article about prepping as a solo mom for a disaster. And so with all the crazy weather going on right now in the world, I was asked to do this video and I thought it was a really great idea. I mean, being a solo mom is already hard, and then when you go through a natural disaster, it's even hard and can even be scary because we still have to be prepared for when the worst can happen or when it does happen. If you know of an upcoming weather risk to your area, such as a wildfire, a storm system, hurricane, pretty much anything, the best thing you can do is start preparing as soon as possible. If you know that your area can suffer things like earthquakes, it's probably a good idea to have a plan in place. And another good thing that you can do is walk through your house with your cell phone and take video of your possessions and the outside of your house as well, just in case you have to make a claim. I mean, no one wants to make an insurance claim, but doing this periodically can help show the insurance that whatever cool stuff you had was actually there before you made the claim, and it wasn't something that you're asking them to replace after the fact, or trying to cheat, or something crazy on that order. It is also important that you have an emergency plan for pretty much anything. And then you need to have a backup plan for your backup plan, because anything could happen out there. A storm's path can change, or you may not be able to take the original evacuation route you planned for, and that's just off the top of my head. I happen to live on the Gulf Coast, and I always plan which direction I'll head based on where the hurricane is projected to go, and then try to get out of that area a couple of days ahead of the storm if possible, because, well, pretty much everyone's trying to go the same place at the same time, right? And then, obviously, I have another plan, just in case the storm changes, or if it gets stronger, or even if it downgrades. Knowing what kind of zone that you're living in too can help, because I happen to live in a flood zone. And so if things get real in my area, like just a lot of rain, I know I need to move to a higher elevation. Some people may also live in wildfire-prone areas, or even places where you're likely to get snowed in. And so it's really important that you prep things. Having 3 days worth of water in your pantry per person is probably a good place to start. One of the things that do go in the store really fast whenever a natural disaster is set to hit the area is water. So one of the best things that you can do is just simply filter your tap water into Ziploc bags and then freeze it ahead of time. So then if you have a power outage, you can just simply take those blocks of ice that you don't have and put them in the fridge to keep your food cool. And then another thing that we do is we get ice and we put it in our washer so that we don't have to open the fridge repeatedly to get like stuff like drinks. And so we're not opening and closing the fridge constantly, and so our food that is important stays cooler longer. One thing that I saw a lot of my friends doing on social media this time around was freezing a block of ice in a Tupperware container before anything happened. And then before they left their house, they put a coin on top so that they could make an educated judgment call, because if the coin was at the bottom, they knew that their food had melted, and so they probably didn't want to eat it. And finally, you shouldn't put your paperwork in the dishwasher. Don't do it. It has a drain, especially if you do live in a flood-prone zone area, and that drain can get backed up with water and destroy all of your good stuff. So those are my best tips. And of course, you'll want to listen to the NOAA updates, the NOAA.org site, and that can be really helpful, especially with hurricanes. But you don't want to like binge on the news either. Just if you know something's coming ahead of time, just watch it a couple times a day. And I also highly recommend the government NOAA website for this reason, because combined with the severe weather alerts from the Weather Channel, you can get a pretty good idea of what is actually going to happen. And especially if you track like a hurricane over time, you can kind of see what direction it's pulling in, even if they're not 100% right. With their projections, you get a good idea of what's going to happen. When I moved here to the Gulf Coast, I had never weathered a hurricane or tornado, but in the area where I live, both are pretty common. I learned really fast not to drop below half tank, and that outdriving a tornado is not a good idea. It's probably the least safe thing that you could do when you have a tornado. And I also learned that putting bike helmets on your kids in a tornado is actually kind of smart. Yeah, my level of cluelessness when it came to southern weather was really, really bad at first. But hey, when those crazy snowstorms hit the south, I was probably one of the very few that were prepared. So, I'm your girl if it ever gets cold. I would love to hear your best wild weather tips as well, so be sure to leave those in the comments. Bye guys!